These are the three earliest existing manuscripts containing details of the creation according to the Christian tradition. Here you'll see not only images of these manuscripts, but a transcription of each one. And it's actually harder than you might think to get a clear identification and image of each of these manuscripts. It took me considerable effort to do so and to make sure that these are actually the manuscripts described. Leon Levy Digital Library sometimes throws a whole bunch of fragments into one picture, but they don't identify which ones are which exactly. So let's see if I can say this clearly. One of these three manuscripts is the earliest manuscript containing these details, but we don't have a high enough degree of confidence to identify exactly which among the three it is. The constraints of paleography make it so we only have a range in which a given manuscript could have been written, and with these three manuscripts, the ranges are quite close together. And to mention even further difficulty, any given paleographer may give a different range for the origins of a certain manuscript. So it's impossible for us today to know exactly which one is the oldest. So that being said, in no particular order, I'll start with 1Q1, also known as 1Q Gen. This is a fragmentary manuscript on parchment, and two different sources give us the following dates. Barthélemy, in Discoveries in the Judean Desert, dates the manuscript from 99 BCE to 69 CE. And I'll probably butcher the name of the individual and of the text in which the dates are given, but Armin Lange in Handbuch der Textfunde vom Toten Meer, that my Spanish might have come out in that pronunciation there, but he gives the dates for the manuscript from 30 BCE to 1 BCE. This fragmentary manuscript is comprised essentially of 5 large fragments. The first fragment contains Genesis chapter 1, verses 18 through 21. Fragment 2 contains Genesis chapter 3, verses 11 through 14. Fragment 3 contains Genesis chapter 22, verses 13 through 15. Fragment 4 contains Genesis chapter 23, verses 17 through 19. Fragment 5 contains Genesis chapter 24, verses 22 through 24. And Barthélemy goes on to suggest that these other smaller fragments that we have broke off of these 5 larger fragments. Secondly, we have the manuscript 4Q4, also known as 4Q Gen D. This is a manuscript of parchment written in the late Hasmonean script. Here are 2 different sources for dates. In Discoveries in the Judean Desert, this manuscript is dated from 75 to 25 BCE. And then Davila in New Qumran readings from Genesis 1 dates it from 50 to 25 BCE. The manuscript contains a significant amount from Genesis chapter 1, verses 18 through 27, but has many lacunae. And then thirdly, we have 4Q7, also known as 4Q Gen G. It's a parchment manuscript written in the late Hasmonean script. Discoveries in the Judean Desert dates this manuscript from 50 to 25 BCE. The manuscript is comprised of 3 fragments, 2 larger fragments and 1 very small. Fragment 1, the largest, is 8.7 centimeters wide and 9.3 centimeters long. It contains much of Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. Fragment 2 contains much of Genesis chapter 1, verses 13 through 22. The third fragment has only segments of a couple of words from Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. The missing text from these manuscripts will likely remain a mystery, lost to the sands of time. Although technically they will remain a mystery, it's likely that the text resembles very much so what we have in the Masoretic text tradition, which is what we have in most of our modern Bibles today. Anything that is in this lacunae or the other segments of text that are missing, any textual variants there, we will likely never be able to analyze. But it seems likely that they resemble what we have today. This video was made in November 2022. Hopefully it will become outdated and we find older manuscripts to enrich this tradition of the Christian creation story, even though it's probably not a true story. One of the reasons I wanted to investigate this, to look at the earliest manuscripts containing this creation story in Christianity, and really in Judaism, is to investigate the word in Hebrew for our English word day. This word is crucial to the creation timeline. Two of these earliest manuscripts, both from Cave 4 at Qumran, use the word yom, the Hebrew word yom, for our English word day, or it's really in reverse. We use day for this Hebrew word, and it's used without exception, yom, in these manuscripts from Cave 4. And there's a reason why armies of scholars, masters in both Hebrew and English, and likely Coptic, Greek, Syriac, have translated yom to day unequivocally and very consistently throughout time. The most likely reason for this is because whoever wrote the creation story in Genesis originally wanted to describe a period of time comprised of light and darkness, what we would think of in English as day. This interpretation, the one which is most readily had and which is most reasonable, is in blatant contradiction to our understanding of cosmology in science today. It is altogether incompatible.